Today I would like to invite you to think about an unfamiliar version for many people, namely, I plan to stand up for the entity that people often associate with evil and darkness. We are talking about the devil, Satan, Lucifer, demon, whatever you want to call them. I propose to consider the situation from a somewhat unconventional angle and become an advocate for Satan, or the devil. Name is not important in the context of this video. Often, we are used to seeing the devil as the personification of evil, seduction, and temptation. He appears as a dark force leading people down the wrong path, and his name is often mentioned in the context of sin and temptation. However, let's approach this topic from a different angle by examining the motives and reasons why we tend to blame our mistakes and actions on the devil. Living in a society where justice and moral standards play an important role, we are often faced with accusations and reproaches. When we are accused of committing a crime or misdemeanor, an accuser appears, charging us with the charges and evidence of guilt. We expect to be given the opportunity to defend ourselves, to provide our perspective and arguments. This is a principle of fairness that we value. So, why not consider the option of the devil's supposed defense, and the possibility of having an attorney for him? It may sound unusual, but after all, everyone has the right to a defense, even when it comes to a powerful figure like the devil, who probably doesn't need a defense attorney. We accuse him, in the person of Satan or Lucifer or a powerful demon, of tempting humanity into the path of sin, of encouraging us to transgress. But imagine that instead of accusations we give him a chance to speak, to explain his point of view, which is unlikely, and he would not speak to a mere mortal. But then maybe it makes sense to look at ourselves first of all. After all, we do not always clearly realize why we do this or that action. We may be tempted to go down a path that at first seems interesting to us, but then leads to negative consequences. And at that point it is convenient to blame the devil, to say that he confused us. But what if in fact we choose our own path? Child psychology is very familiar to us. When a child hits a chair, for example, the mother may slap the chair, saying "bad chair." This gives the impression that it was not the child's fault, but the unfortunate chair just got in the way, naughty child. And this tendency remains with us as adults. We often look for blame among others, to avoid admitting our own fault. Let's take a relationship example. We meet someone and begin an active courtship. Then, when that stage passes, we realize that it was just a passing attraction. Here we can easily blame the devil for temptation, but really, we just gave into our desires. Why not recognize that we created this situation ourselves? The concept of sin is also interesting to analyze. This concept, like moral standards, is highly dependent on society and time. In the morning we may consider thinking about an attractive girl sinful, but in the evening of that day, after the wedding, we no longer do. This demonstrates that our ideas about sin are subject to change and are not always absolute. So, maybe it is time to look at the devil or Satan, Lucifer, the evil demon, differently, not as a diabolical compulsion, but as a figure that reminds us of our own responsibility. After all, it is ultimately up to us to choose how to act, what paths to explore, what temptations to overcome. Let us not blame the devil for everything, but rather let us examine and consider where Satan's fault is and whether it is there at all, and where our actions and decisions are to blame and what consequences they may entail.
The devil's greatest weapon is deception.